Welcome to The Explainer. Today we're diving into one of literature's biggest, most enduring mysteries. But we're not just going to ask who wrote Shakespeare's plays. We're going to explore a much wilder, much more haunting idea. What if the author wasn't a person at all, but a ghost? All right, so let's just jump right in. This is it, the ultimate literary whodunit. Who was the real genius behind masterpieces like Hamlet and Macbeth? It's a question that, for centuries now, has fueled this really intense, almost personal debate. And this whole debate, it's pretty much split down the middle. You've got two major camps, each with its own army of scholars, its own institutions, and really, its own deeply held beliefs about who the real Shakespeare actually was. So, on one side, you have the orthodox Stratfordians. They say, look, the case is pretty straightforward. The historical evidence points to one guy, William Shakespeare from Stratford-upon-Avon. His name is on the plays. People at the time said he wrote them. Case closed. But on the other side, you've got the anti-Stratfordians, the skeptics. And they ask a pretty compelling question. How could a guy like that, a commoner with no fancy education and a pretty thin paper trail, have such deep, profound knowledge of court life, of law, of foreign lands? To them, it just doesn't add up. They believe the real author had to be a nobleman, someone like Francis Bacon or maybe the Earl of Oxford, who used Shakespeare as a front. And listen, this wasn't just some fringe conspiracy theory. You had huge names like Mark Twain, who were serious skeptics. He joked that the case for the man from Stratford was like trying to build a brontosaurus from just a couple of bones and a ton of plaster. For him, the evidence just wasn't there. But here's a thought. What if both sides are kind of missing the point? What if the answer isn't about swapping one author for another? What if we should be looking for a totally different kind of writer? A ghost. You know, the revolutionary theater director Edward Gordon Craig, he saw something completely different. He argued that the ghosts in Shakespeare's plays, like Hamlet's poor dad, they weren't just there for a cheap scare. No, he said they were the absolute center of the plays, a momentary visualization of the unseen forces that are pulling all the strings. This idea of a familiar yet unsettling presence, it taps right into a concept from Sigmund Freud called the uncanny. It's that creepy, chilling feeling you get when something that's supposed to be familiar, like your own reflection or your childhood home, suddenly feels foreign and threatening. That feeling right there is the essence of a Shakespearean ghost. It's the past coming back in a way that's deeply, deeply weird. And this uncanny power, it seems like it almost leaks off the stage and into the real world. The infamous curse of Macbeth is a perfect example. I mean, just look at this timeline of bizarre accidents and actual tragedies that have plagued productions of this play for centuries. It's like those unseen forces just refuse to stick to the script. Okay, so let's take this whole idea of unseen forces and turn it back to our original question. We've been talking about the ghosts in the plays, but what about the ghost of Shakespeare himself? And this is the really radical idea at the heart of our explainer. The power of Shakespeare doesn't come from who he was. It comes from the fact that we know so little about him. It's that very lack of information, that huge biographical black hole at the center of his story, that makes him so monumental. He is powerful because he is an absence. The poet Matthew Arnold just nailed this. He wrote that we can pick apart other writers, question them, figure them out, but Shakespeare, he's free. He just smilest in art still, totally beyond our grasp. That's why he's so towering, right? Because he's this blank canvas that we can project all of our own ideas of genius onto. The philosopher Michel Foucault actually gave this a name. He called it the author function. He argued that the author isn't really a person. It's more of a concept, a function, and its power actually grows as the individual writer fades from view. It's a paradox. By becoming an absence, the author is transformed. They literally become their own ghostwriter, haunting their own work with this new, untouchable authority. And how perfect is this? The only acting roles that tradition says William Shakespeare himself ever played were the ghost in Hamlet and the frail old man, Adam, in As You Like It. I mean, come on. In both cases, he's playing a father figure from the past, a kind of living ghost who shows up and needs the younger generation to carry out his will. It's almost too good to be true. And get this whole idea of ghostwriting, it's not just some modern theory we're layering on top of the plays. It's in the plays themselves. In fact, Shakespeare's work is obsessed with staging the act of writing through some kind of substitute, some absent author. I mean, once you start looking for it, you see it everywhere. Hamlet scrambling to write down the ghost's words. Mark Antony turning Caesar's will into a weapon, basically making a dead man his ghostwriter. The poor, mutilated Lavinia finding a way to write even without hands. And then you have all the forged letters that drive the plots of plays like Twelfth Night and King Lear. Over and over again, the act of writing is an act of substitution, a way to channel a voice that isn't physically present. This line from Titus Andronicus is just absolutely chilling. The real, literal horror of dismemberment becomes this deep commentary on writing itself. The author's hand is gone, it's fragmented, but somehow it still finds a way to write.
Just think about a signature for a second. It's kind of a ghost, isn't it? A signature's whole purpose is to stand in for you when you're not there. It's the mark of a living hand, but it only really has power in that hand's absence. It signifies both presence and non-presence at the exact same time, just like a ghost.
And it's not just powerful men who are haunting these plays. So many of Shakespeare's female characters are ghost writers too. Think about Ophelia. Her story comes out in these mad, broken songs because she can't speak it directly. Or Cassandra, who everyone calls a mad sister, but her prophecies are telling the absolute truth. Even Sycorax in The Tempest, she never even appears on stage, but her story, her power, haunts the entire island. Their voices are silenced, but they are still profoundly felt. Okay, so we've talked about ghosts and absences and even dismembered hands. But why does any of this really matter to us right here, right now? What's the big takeaway? This incredible, haunting fragment of a poem from John Keats, I think it gets right to the heart of it. The act of writing is a way for the dead to reach out with a cold hand from the silence of the tomb and to haunt our days. It's how the past stays with us. And that's the ultimate point. The author we call Shakespeare is a ghost. He's an absence so powerful that, in a way, he's never stopped writing. That dead hand continues to write us. It shapes our language, our culture, our very ideas about genius and what it means to be human.
So the next time somebody asks you who really wrote Shakespeare, you can give them the most interesting answer of all. A ghost did, and that ghost is still writing us.